Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one. It is going to be an age-old debate on which is better, the Square Tapered Crank or the Hollowtech II Crank. Well, there are already a lot of information online. There are also many experts' opinion on this. Therefore, I'm not going to tell you which is better. Rather, in today's video, I'm going to share with you my own thought process on why I chose the Hollowtech II Crank over the Square Tapered Crank. If this topic interests you, why not stay a while with me? My name is Freddy, welcome to this video, let's get down to it. I'm going to organize today's conversation basing on the top 3 arguments against the Square Tapered Crankset System which I found online. They do not necessarily represent my view, I'm just using it as a way to guide our conversation today and share with you my thoughts on them and let you form your own conclusion. The first argument against a Square Tapered Crankset System is the fact that it is flexier as compared to the Hollowtech cranks. Personally, when I wrote the Square Tapered Crankset System, I did not notice any flex. I was quite disappointed because I was hoping that I could generate enough power to notice flex. Unfortunately, not powerful enough. What I did notice, however, was that the paddling feel felt a little bit more squashy as compared to the Hollowtech cranks which I had on other bikes. And I tried to investigate and by doing my research online to see if there are indeed tests conducted to determine whether the Hollowtech cranks are indeed stiffer than the Square Tapered Crankset System. There wasn't anything much which I found online, most are all opinions. But there was a blog which I will share in my description box below, have a read, where they tried to conduct an experiment on different cranksets. What they did was, they basically mounted the crankset and started to load the crank arms. Subsequently, they measured the deflection on the crank arms. Naturally, the lesser it deflects, the better because it represents that it's stiffer. There was only one top-range Square Tapered Crankset System in the experiment. I won't call out the model or make, you can have a read yourself. And that particular crankset is noticeably flexier by about 50% as compared to mid-range Hollowtech crankset system. It begs a few questions. I say that it's non-conclusive because the first question that I have was that, is one crankset system able to represent the whole Square Tapered Crankset System? I don't think it's representative of everything. Even though it is enough, because 50% is quite a huge margin, it is enough for me to deduce and think that okay, there might be some truth in the experiment. Right. So I'll leave it up to you to draw your own conclusions, but these are my thoughts in terms of the stiffness. If you have data that can quantify this, please share that with me because I've been trying to search for it to justify this point, but I couldn't find anything. So if you can find anything or you have a scientific background on this and you can explain it in a clear way, please let me know. I would love to hear your views. But the bigger question really is, does stiffer drivetrain necessarily translate to pedaling efficiency or performance? I mean, many cycling legends used to ride on the Square Tapered Crankset System and they were pretty damn fast. So yeah, food for thought. Okay, the second piece is the maintenance piece. It is not really against the Square Tapered Crankset System. In fact, they have been around for a long time and have proven themselves to be highly reliable. Where some have reported that when done correctly, it actually requires less maintenance as compared to the Hollowtech system. Now, in this area, I will go for the Hollowtech system simply because I already have the tools required to install and uninstall this system. So it's a natural choice for me. As for me, the installation and uninstallation of this system is a lot easier as compared to the Square Tapered Crankset system. To install and uninstall this is not difficult. You can do a quick search on it. It's just that to me it requires another set of tools and it is slightly more cumbersome as compared to this. So you can see what I've done earlier. This is the uninstallation process of the Hollowtech crankset. The installation is quite straightforward. It's just the reverse of this whole process here. which I won't go into detail today, maybe some other time. When it comes to maintenance, I think one big thing for us is we do not really want any squeaking or creaking sound that will come from the crankset or bottom bracket as we pedal. So this can come from free play, dirt, etc, etc. Now the issue I have with the Square Tapered Crankset system is that it seems to present a higher margin of error. But if you look at the design, the crank needs to be slotted into the axle, same for the crank arms, and bolted down. So if it is not bolted down correctly on either side, or there's wear on the material that causes some sort of free play, you can see that the whole crankset will start to wobble, right? And what I really do not like about the Square Tapered Crankset system is the space between the crank and the bottom bracket that you see here. To me, it is really hanging by the axle, and if let's say there's any wobbling going on here, there is no counter force against it to prevent this from worsening. So it can cause wear on the material and it may not fit on as well as it should. I'm not saying that this will happen. I'm sure if this is installed correctly and done by a professional, it definitely will not happen. I'm just saying that the room for error seems to be higher as compared to the Hollowtech system. Now let's take a look at the Hollowtech system. Okay, if you look at the Hollowtech system, it is quite straightforward. The axle is already integrated with the crank, and all you needed to do is to slot it into the bottom bracket after you install it on your bike, and then mount your crank arms on, and you're done. So as for the room for error, is really quite little as compared to the Square Tapered system, because this is already, the axle is already integrated, right? So the only thing that can be loose is probably on the crank arm side. The next thing I like about this design is that if you look at the way the crank is being mounted, there is no gap here. So it feels, I have no proof, I can't quantify it, but it feels as though that the power transfer will be smoother. It doesn't have to go through that space or the axle for power to transfer through. Right. The second thing is that, as I've mentioned earlier, if let's say there's any free play, the absence of the gap actually acts as a counter force against the wobbling, so it prevents it from worsening. So if you look at this, right, there isn't really much room for error for parts to wear down or things to not be brought down correctly. Again, I'm not saying that it won't happen, I'm not saying that this is the best design in the world, I'm just saying that the margin for error seems to be lower when I look at both designs. So these are my thoughts when it comes to maintenance. What are yours? Okay, we're finally down to the last aspect, which is weight. I'm excited because this is finally something which is quantifiable as compared to the previous two aspects which we've discussed. Now, I do not want to say that this point is against the Square Tapered Crankset system, because it will open up a whole new discussion of whether lighter is better, and I do not want to go there. And secondly, I do know of Square Tapered Crankset systems which are lighter than Hollowtech crankset system. So let's just use this as a point to guide our discussion today. I've weighed my stock crankset system inclusive of the bottom bracket, and it came in at 1115 grams. I weighed the Hollowtech II Crankset system, again inclusive of the bottom bracket, and it came in at 665 grams. That's a whopping 450 grams worth of weight savings, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I expected some level of savings, but not 450 grams. So as you guys know, I'm an aesthetics kind of guy when it comes to modding my 3Sixty foldable bike. If you present me with something which is nicer, or at least I think is nicer, that presents weight savings as well, I'm definitely going for it. Now, as mentioned earlier, I do know of setups of Square Tapered Crankset system which are lighter. I have a friend who actually had that, and run on titanium axle on his bottom bracket and ceramic bearings and some lighter cranks, and he was very happy with it. And while I was exploring this option as well, I decided to ask for his feedback and user experience on the crankset, and this was his reply. Again, I must highlight that this is an isolated incident, and it may not happen to all square tapered crankset system, right? So it can happen to any material, any systems and all that. But knowing that it happened to someone that you know, personally, I just didn't feel comfortable going with that. That's why, considering all these, I went with the Hollowtech II Crankset System. We have come to the end of today's video, where we discussed some of my personal thoughts on why I would go with the Hollowtech II Crankset System over the Square Tapered Crankset System. To sum up, the three main points are: firstly, my own preference for the paddling feel which the Hollowtech II Crankset could provide. Secondly, at least for myself, it is the ease of maintenance for a person like me with little to no mechanical know-how. Third, and most importantly, is the aesthetics with weight savings. You can't say no to that. Okay, as discussed earlier, if you have information which you think could help us bridge our knowledge gap in the comparison between a square tapered crankset system versus the Hollowtech II Crankset System, please leave your comments below so that we could all learn from you and improve from this. And as always, I hope all this information has been useful for you in one way or another. Thank you for watching. See you again. Goodbye.